Welcome to Get Serious. So today, again, more of a mindset Sunday here. And again, no, I had more of the negative sentiment recently, again, dealing with the legal side. And you can check in earlier this week. Hopefully by the time you hear this podcast, since I'm recording a little early, I'll have additional resolution to report to you all. But I know I talked about AI yesterday and just how exciting that is. And just another factor on why I'm just able to show up, probably more than ever in my career, just with like continued excitement and energy. And I really go back to one of my core mentors, Coach Trevor McGregor, his 4S framework of really maintaining and optimizing your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy. And really the first three kind of set the corners of a triangle, and strategy is within the middle there. State, you can think of, what type of energy are you bringing? Like, how is your body feeling? How is your mind feeling? Is it more, kind of peaked? You're active, you're ready to go? Or are you more lethargic and feeling more pessimistic? Maybe just more tired? But it could also like apply to your general temperament at the time as well, too. Again, like more of a positive or negative valence. And again, just kind of the overall state of your body. And if you're coming into something really negative, like you really have to check yourself, because can you really do your best work when you're just feeling low and negative about things, or going into an important conversation? Like you really got to check your state before anything. Story, again, what type of narrative are you telling yourself? Or we're all kind of the main characters of our own life journey, right? And we're, internally, whatever our internal narrative is, like we're the only ones who actually know what our full story is. So what story are you telling yourself? Are you a victor on your way to victory, or are you just a victim? Or again, are you just generally, it's more pessimistic? You're not thinking that you're on a route to a positive outcome, or it's just a low point and you're just feeling, I really don't have what it takes. I'm just, I'm a normal individual. I'm not going to be able to get exceptional results. Everything is just going against me at the moment. The world is just too crazy. Again, like what narrative do you have? Or are you like, hey, I can encounter any challenge and find a way to succeed. Other people with way less resources have done, much more than I've ever done in life, and I know I can do it too. Are you generally optimistic or pessimistic in relation to that narrative? Your standards. Who are you comparing yourself to? What standards internally do you have? Are you comparing yourself to people who are living the life you want to live, or at least what you can perceive from the outside? Because again, nobody has it as good as you think they do, and I keep hearing that from like pretty much anybody who is, quote unquote, at the top. They will all remark that as well. So never put anybody on the pedestal, but you can still try to achieve standards that other people have maintained or achieved in order to kind of get yourself up to the next level. And so all of those three, set that triangle. And then within that is your strategy to achieve whatever goal you're trying to go after. And if you don't take care of those first three, you don't have a good state, you don't have a good story, you don't have good standards, then your strategy is going to fall apart as well, because it's not going to be oriented to take the best steps possible to actually take the actions and achieve the results that you want. And so those are the 4 S's, but it's really the first two that I've been focusing on most recently, especially over the past few months. And it's been a pretty challenging few months here, but I still feel like my state and my story has been so solid. And I'm somebody who has occasionally had, much bigger dips. I think that's common for entrepreneurs, and you just get into a dark spiral, a black spiral, whatever. And it's like, man, I just think things are just not going on. And like those used to be so much more common, but now it's just like a bit more steady, or even just more consistently optimistic, because like I'm just so focused on maintaining my state and my story and the people who believe in me. And state really, a lot of it to me just comes back. Are you getting, you getting your exercise, you getting your sleep, you're eating properly? Like a lot of that will take care of state. Am I walking outside, getting some sunlight, making sure that I'm just taking care of like all these core things that we really should be doing every single day to set ourselves up as biological organisms, getting proper movement. Am I talking to the right people? All of that kind of sets up my state. And I think it's maybe the one people struggle with the most, because you can just, especially in the US, you can just kind of look around and just tell people are so stressed and not taking care of themselves, that if you can succeed with your state, you're probably ahead of, 80 to 90% of people anyway. So like that's a really good start. to get there. And then again, like the underlying story is just maintaining that optimism and the people's belief in me to achieve larger goals and kind of continue to align myself. Yeah, if I stay consistent, basically every single day, or if I falter, I know I can get right back on track. I haven't reached a ruined scenario. There's always a way to persevere through various problems and challenges there. And I know I have a bright future ahead of me. That's what I choose to see, and working with some really incredible individuals who really want to achieve this particular vision as well. And so those two, like, I'm just able to return to them so consistently, and like that to me just sets up the longevity for just continued focus and action to achieve these goals that I've set myself out to, or at least do whatever I can in order to achieve them. And whether I do or not, I mean, that's not really what really matters in the end there. But being in the arena and taking action and showing up and doing your job and doing the hard work, like that's ultimately what counts and gives you the best chance of succeeding and winning more than anything else. So the 4 S's, it's a constant refrain in the Duff household: state and story. I just feel like if you're trying to set up decades of success, if you really focus on those two, like sometimes we can get inspired by people. That's why, like, the standards, it's critical. But how many times, like, we might set ourselves up for a solid standard and then, like, it can fall out. Like, just look at like New Year's resolutions, right? Like, you set a new standard and it just falls up because you start telling yourself again the wrong story, and you get into the wrong state again. Your standards fall off, and then your strategy falters as well. But if you can really, really maintain that state in your story, all of a sudden you can build some of that more consistency with those standards you want to uphold and the strategies therein to achieve those results. So again, I know some people kind of poo-poo mindset and everything too, and it's like, and again, I don't believe in like the secret type stuff or manifesting. That's not for me. But I do think there is a direct connection from your thoughts to the actions and the results that you achieve. Those all have a logical flow together, and so that's why I protect it as much as possible. And I know there are so many other, outwardly successful people who just like don't maintain their state or story. They're just grinding on to like try to reach this destination, but like they don't really have the longevity to succeed over the course of years and decades. And again, I think if you don't protect that diligently, like you're just setting yourself up for burnout or failure in the long run, because if you're not kind of maintaining a level of focus and discipline that can be maintained over years and decades to come, like, why are we really doing that? To me, again, like then that would go back to like a diet. Like everybody asks, what type of diet should I do? And it's like, it's the one you can do for the rest of your life. Like that's the one that's going to work. So I approach state and story the same way, and the way that I show up to work. I want to be able to find a rhythm that I can do for the rest of my life. And the more work I do, like the more capacity seems to open up in me anyway, because I just realized that there's even more potential to go after. So that to me is kind of the lesson here. What can you do for the rest of your life? Comes a diet, high protein, high fiber. I can pretty much eat the same thing every day, and it just works. I can eat eggs for breakfast for the next 50 to 60 years, no problem. Can you do that? Can you do that in your work life? That will set up your state. That will set up your story. Last thing I would mention too, I started at, it kind of falls within state, but I would throw in a 5th S, substances, like sometimes, alcohol, cannabis, whatever, you pick your poison, literally, what you might enjoy. We're all humans, it's works in progress. Sometimes are more fun, but like I'm someone who, back and forth would, indulge in various substances, especially cannabis as a primary. But, the more dramatically I cut back on those, like my state and my story, my 4 S's just naturally continue to get better. My mind is sharper. Body is at like, peak strength. Never been stronger than I am at 36 years old. So all of that's kind of correlated together. that's just another thing to mention there, as we all try to create the best versions of ourselves, or at least do our darndest to get there. So again, this is why I can maintain this level of optimism and energy in the midst of really challenging environments and markets and just nonsense that comes up, legal situations, what have you, because my state and my story, my standards and my strategy are strong and only getting stronger. With that in mind, seriousland.capital for any of your funding needs, zero cost review of your land deals at Land Daily Diligence Facebook group, and landpricer.ai for the most reliable land pricing tool on the market. With that, subscribe and share, everybody. Excited to get back to you with the next one. Take care. Bye.